Hi guys, welcome to The Bite. My name is Jackie. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a very simple apple cake that my Tete, or grandmother in Arabic, used to make all the time. She has a very vibrant garden that her and my Sido, which is grandfather. By the way, if you guys want like an Arabic word per video, let me know in the comments down below. I think that'd be kind of fun to introduce you to some vocabulary in Arabic. So they have a really amazing garden. One of the trees that they happen to have was an apple tree, and my Tete would make this all the time and give it to her neighbors, give it to her friends, and she had 4 kids, has 4 kids, so she would, feed them with it as well. But yeah, I mean, you'll find that there's some differences between this cake and like an American style apple cake or like an apple pie. There's just some differences. But let's go over these really simple ingredients that you probably have already on hand, and let's get to it. So I have some plain white sugar, some milk, eggs, some room temperature butter. I have some flour, some salt, baking powder, and then the apples. And also an orange. This is not necessary. I don't do this all the time. You can use a lemon zest or orange zest, but I just zest a little bit just to give it a little bit of essence. That hint of flavor and that scent is really appetizing to me in a simple cake like this. For the apples, I usually use a mixture of Gala and Honeycrisp because that's what I like to eat. Something like a Granny Smith, the green apples, would be a little too tart for this. You want an apple that has a natural sweetness because there's really not that much sugar in here. So you want something to give off the sweet vibe that a cake should have. So I stay away from pretty much the red delicious apples because those are a little too grainy for me, and then the Granny Smith, but whatever floats your fancy. But this is what I have right here. All the ingredients and the measurements will be on my blog. You can find that in the first link in the description box below. So I start by, just like my Tete does, in a bowl, and she does everything with a spoon really. So I'm not going to use any kind of electric mixers or anything because this is how she does it. So I just have some sugar and my room temperature butter. I kept this out for a couple of hours, but if you forgot, you can always just put the butter in the microwave for like 15-second increments. You don't want it to be melted, you just want it to be room temperature. So I'm gonna cream this together with my spatula, and then I'll add the eggs. So this is what you want to see. You want everything to be really well creamed together, and it's kind of pale in color. This is looking good. So now I'm gonna add the eggs. And when I was testing this recipe, I tested it a few times, and I would FaceTime my Tete because she recently got the ability to FaceTime, which is really exciting because I haven't seen her in so long, thanks to COVID. So I asked her how she makes this cake, and obviously she doesn't have measurements. She's like, how big do you want it? And I'm like, how did you make it? Just tell me how you made it. It's almost impossible for foreigners to give you measurements for just about anything. So she just told me what she put in it, and I played around with the measurements a few times, and I came up with this, which is similar, that's the oven, similar to hers, and I'm happy with it. So I'm excited to share it with you. And a lot of you, when you saw me making this on my Instagram, were really excited for this as well. And I was kind of not shocked, but it's a simple apple cake. I just got a lot of messages. I wasn't expecting it. So mixing this as well as I can. And if you find that it's kind of curdling, that's okay. It's all gonna come together in the end, promise. So now that the eggs, the sugar, and the butter are all mixed in, it's looking good. I'm just going to add some vanilla. I just want to wipe my hands down really quick. All right, I'm gonna add in the vanilla, a couple tablespoons, and then my milk. You want to mix it gently so it doesn't start splattering all over the place. And this is gonna be a pretty wet mixture so far, but you're gonna be left with just gives you the most delicious cake ever. And it's so nice with like tea in the morning, or in our case, some vanilla ice cream at night. Right, this looks perfect. Again, mine is a little bit curdled. It's fine. It's gonna all work out in the end. I am going to take my dry mixture, and obviously you're gonna need a bundt pan. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I like to do mine in a bundt pan. The apples. I like to take, this is a trick my mom taught me, or I think it was my mom. I like to take just a couple tablespoons of the flour, and this keeps the apples, I'm gonna mix it in just a second, but this is gonna keep the apples from sinking down to the bottom, and it keeps them well dispersed throughout the cake. This is something that I do whenever I add like chocolate chips into muffins, or like my butterscotch pumpkin muffins, I did that too. So the remainder of the dry ingredients, I'm just going to stir and just add those all right in here. And then I'm gonna add the apples in here because this bowl is too small to mix everything. And just mix that right on in. So the apples are coated in the flour, and I want you to see the size of these apples. They're not huge to where you're gonna get huge chunks of apple. You're still gonna see the apple. It's not like finely grated, but it's like 1/2 inch. And I think that is a good size for the cake. And again, it's gonna be really well dispersed, so it's gonna give you a nice, perfect bite. I'm just going to mix this all together and get this batter going. I'll mix it halfway and then I'll add in the apples. I do want to scrape off my spatula though. This is very rustic. This is not something that's going to be looking perfect. It's a bundt cake that we're really just gonna end up topping with powdered sugar. Nothing fancy, but it just kind of tastes like home, and I really like it. Okay, come to think of it, I am going to switch to a whisk just to get these clumps out. So I'm gonna set this aside till I have to pour it in. And I just want to mix this so that everything is combined well. So it's looking great so far. This is a good time to add in the apples and the orange zest. So I'm just gonna add, I mean, it doesn't have to be a crazy amount of orange zest, just enough to give it that essence that I think is really pretty. And again, you can use lemon, you can use nothing at all, but you know, a little something, something. All right, that is in. I'm gonna add in the apples with their little bit of flour. And then I'm gonna actually switch back to my spatula. This is looking beautiful. You can really smell that orange. You can see all those apples that are gonna be flecked throughout the cake. It's just gonna be heavenly. And it's gonna give you, because I buttered and greased this baking pan, the bundt pan, I mean, it's gonna give you a really crispy exterior, which it's my favorite part of the whole thing. So this is just gonna get poured right in, and pray that this pregnancy clumsiness, everything actually makes it into the bundt pan. Let's see. All right, not too shabby. I am happy with how this looks. And it doesn't go all the way up to the top of the bundt pan, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to. To me, this is just the perfect amount. So this is going to go into an oven at 350 degrees for 1 hour, or your oven may be different, so keep an eye on it after around 35 minutes or so. You want it to be golden brown, and when you stick a toothpick or a fork in it, it comes out clean, and that's when you know it's done. So this is gonna go in, and we'll see you when it's done. The cake came out of the oven after 1 hour. I let it cool for about 5 minutes, and now I'm ready to take it out. I just want to take off any edges that are kind of sticking, just so that it's a little bit easier for me to remove it from the pan. Just gonna take a plate and flip it. It sounds like it came all in one piece. Let's see, ta-da! And this is why you grease your bundt pan. So easy, all in one piece, just absolutely beautiful. And you can really feel those crispy edges. You can smell the apples and that orange, just that little bit of orange. I mean, I really didn't add much, but it does a lot for the cake. And I think it makes it taste absolutely delicious. So at this point, we're just gonna add a little garnish of some powdered sugar. And I think just a little dusting of this really brings it to life, really makes it very inviting, and really also makes it very homey too. you probably should let it cool a little bit more, just because when it's hot, the powdered sugar tends to just kind of melt, and you can see that I just put it on this side and this side's already melting, and then if I put it over here, then that side's gonna melt. So when you let it cool, it'll actually stay, and you'll be able to see the little snow-esque looking flakes of powdered sugar. And it just looks beautiful. I mean, look at how beautiful that is. So simple, so easy. I'm gonna cut into it so you can see what's inside. All right, come take a look at this. So look how you can see the apples are all throughout the cake. That's what adding the flour to the apples, that's what that does. And this is, now you'll notice this doesn't have cinnamon, allspice, apple pie spice, none of that, because honestly, those are flavors that we actually use in our savory foods, like cinnamon, allspice. Those are flavors that you'll find in like our traditional rice dishes, or our soups, or our doeli, and like those kind of things. This, we like it just very simple, and you can tell that it's like spongy. It's not as spongy as if you were to use vegetable oil in the cake, but the butter makes it very dense and still spongy at the same time. Just delicious. And you really get that orange. The apples are tender, they're sweet, just on point. This is phenomenal. And when I eat this, I think of my Tete and my Sido and their backyard, where me and my cousins had a lot of fun playing around in their garden, where I recently, the last time I visited them, they had an abundance of peaches in the yard. So this cake really reminds me of them. And I FaceTime my Tete all the time whenever I make this, and she gets so excited because it feels like we're together. And it's amazing how food can do that, and I love it. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I do. Enjoy it with a cup of tea, because that's what we love to do. I'm gonna sit down and have this piece to myself, maybe another little small sliver. And if you make this, don't forget to tag me on Instagram or Facebook at The Bite with Jackie. All the measurements and ingredients are in the description box down below on my blog. So just click that first link, and we will see you next time on The Bite.